All right, so once again, we'll start your name.
Name is Robert McGuigan, and I was diagnosed with cancer around the week of September 22nd through the 25th, right? Around September 25th. I went in for some problems that I was having and for previous months, and they did a CAT scan, came back. They were amazed at what they found, and they said, Mr. McGuigan, we found a spot on your, we found 5 lesions on your liver and a spot on your bone. I looked at them and I said, okay, I know what time of day it is. And I said, I've got cancer. And they said, yes. We do want to follow up and take some more tests. We're going to put you in the hospital tonight. And it was a Wednesday night. And so I went into the hospital. They ran some more tests. Did a liver biopsy on Friday. On Thursday they did an MRI. And they found that I had 5 lesions, or I had 2 lesions on the brain as well. They came in and told me it. My first reaction was to tell the doctor, well, I want complete honesty all the way across the board. Nothing more, nothing less. I know what time of day it is, and I don't want anything hidden. In fact, how much time do I have at this point? And they said, at this point, we're not sure. We'll have to run some more tests. And when we get more info back from the liver biopsy, we'll be able to tell you even more. And it wasn't until about 2 weeks later I had another appointment. They found out that I had a very rare, extremely rare form of cancer called neuroendocrine, and which is hard to pinpoint exactly. Went through the process and said, okay. They told me 4 to 6 months. And this is the point that I'm at now, and I accepted what they had to say. I accepted it from the beginning. I've always taken things, you throw me a curve, I'm going to come right back at that curve and I'm going to hit it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to find a way.
So
to this point today, I'm very positive. I've got a very positive attitude, and I maintain that in everything that I do. To me, everything is a positive. Mm-hmm. And I've had too many positive events prior to this cancer happening, and too many positive events happened after I was diagnosed with cancer. Mm-hmm. Am I scared? Well, to say that I'm not, come on. We all are scared of dying. Nobody wants to die. But yeah, I'm scared. Mm-hmm. But I've accepted it as well. I hope I can beat it and live and just do a number on it. Even though it's a rarity, I hope I can pound it away and get another 2, 3, 4 years. Mm-hmm. And if not, I'm going to have to accept it, which I will. Mm-hmm. But do I feel the pain and hurt? Yeah. So far, I'm inside. I hurt inside because I don't want to die, but it's a reality. And so I've accepted a lot of it, but there are some I'm sure that I still have to accept towards the end. But I'm going to face it like I faced everything else in my entire life. I'm going to face it head on, and I'm going to fight it. Mm-hmm. I take a negative and turn it into a positive in the best way possible that I can. Mm-hmm. It's a lot I want to do and accomplish yet, and I'm going to accomplish a lot before I do die. Mm-hmm. And that's where I'm sitting at about right now with the cancer. I've had 15 treatments of radiation. I've had 10 on the brain. What they're hoping to do is slow it down. I've had 5 on the bone. They're the oh, I forgot the name of the bone. The pelvic bone. And with hopes of slowing it down, now Monday started the chemo, which I'll do 3 weeks at a crack. I'll get the infusion and some pills that'll last for 3 weeks, and then I go back and take the next 3 weeks. So those are going to be the toughest on me, and I'm going to, again, keep fighting.
The radiation treatments, did those take like any kind of physical toll on you? How did you feel physically after each of those?
After I completed during the radiation treatment, it really didn't take a toll on me. I felt good. I mean, I just did the radiation, and I was up walking, and of course I had to have a little help. But once I was more alert and everything after the radiation treatment, I had no problems. I was on steroids for a while during this treatment time, and but I had no trouble with it in that respect. And out of 15, I had no trouble with the radiation. And right now the chemo, I'm at where that's at, and see what happens.
After 2 doses of the chemo, now you haven't really noticed a whole lot of difference yet?
Not physically yet, after the 2 doses. Now, I finished my 2nd dose tonight, and then like tomorrow will be the 3rd dose for the 3rd week. Take 3 days, I'm taking 3 weeks worth of radiation. Tomorrow I'll get up, I'll take 4 pills. Then tomorrow evening I'll take 4 more, which will end with 3 days, which will be the 3 weeks chemo. And then at that point, they've told me the first number of days I'm going to be pretty energy level high, everything on a good roll. The 2nd week you'll start feeling a little less, you won't be as physical to be able to move around. You'll still have your mentality to a point, I guess, but you'll lose some of your energy level. How much, I'm not sure, but I'm a very high energy and positive guy, so I'm gonna just keep plugging away.
Well, let's jump to something positive. One of the things that's come out of this whole thing was you were finally, after all of these years of waiting, gifted a chance to see the Packer game.
Oh, God, yeah, I have one of my bucket lists fulfilled. Being able to go see the Green Bay Packers and Chicago Bears on a Monday night football game in a limo with 9 great friends of mine. That I couldn't ask for anything better. What a trip. We started in Madison, went from Madison to Oshkosh, Wisconsin to pick up the tickets from a friend of mine who worked for a corporation in Oshkosh, which I wish I could remember because I'd love to name. And from Oshkosh, when we picked up the tickets, we went to a place called Kodiak Jack's in Oshkosh, which was real great. Everyone was able to have a couple brews and have a nice toast at the bar to me and to the customers. And it was just, overall, it was a great experience. Then we got to Green Bay, where we went to the stadium bar and got treated royally by the owner of the place. He gave us a special place to sit and watch the game, and in a nice big room where we had ample space. And the owner had lost his wife to cancer just a few months prior, so they were also having a cancer benefit besides some Packers. And hey, I love my Green Bay Packers, and I got to meet some of the old ones, Fuzzy Thurston and a couple others. So yeah, it was a hell of a trip up, and then the game was super tickets. Got to see everything, and it was just super. Can't explain it. And there with my friends, oh, it was awesome. The only problem I had on the trip was I had more Bear fans than Packer fans.
I was just going to say, with all you've been through in the last couple months, how did you find the strength to deal with a limo full of Bears fans?
It wasn't easy, but like I said, when you're faced with adversity, I just face it head on and I just come right at you. So the Bear fans, as many as they were, could not overcome me.
Keep them coming, right?
Yep. And then the other thing that's happened to me on a positive was I got to I got to go to my hometown and see it possibly for the last time on a Harley. Because I've always wanted to own and ride a Harley because I always had a biker heart, but just never went and did it. Well, I saw my hometown in the Harley. And the best part of it being, when my brother went to the hometown, he went in a limo. I went on a Harley. You want to talk a difference? So I've had nothing but great experiences going on through this whole cancer trip and whatever and everything else that happened before. Hey, it's back to the same.
So another thing, talk a little bit about some of the stops that they did with you when you were on your motorcycle ride. They stopped by your dad's old cheese shop, factory.
You know, they stopped at my. Well, when we left, we actually left New Glarus at the Sportsman's Bar where we all met. And the owner of the place and I went to grade school together. He was about a year older. And so that was the beginning of my trip, was also seeing the owner of the Sportsman Bar in New Glarus. So that was a cat's meow. And so we started there, got on the Harley, and oh boy, it was interesting getting on it, but by God, I made it. And I got on that Harley, and I felt like I was a totally free spirit. And when we started to take the drive, and we were driving out of town, the guy in the front, the driver, Caveman, he said, it wasn't Caveman, I take that back. But anyway, he told me, Robert, he said, when we bend around the corner, you bend. And if you do that, we're going to be all right. Well, didn't even have to worry. I didn't even hold on the whole ride. I just went with the flow. It was a natural. I leaned when they leaned, and I leaned when they leaned the other way. And I didn't even hold on the whole way.
I saw a lot of pictures with your hands in the air.
My hands in the air. I was flying like an eagle on a Harley. And I was also pointing to different areas as we're going. Then the driver says, Robert, be a little careful in your movement back there. I need to know when you're going to move.
Getting a little excited.
Okay. So I let him know I was going to be pointing to the right or pointing to the left, and just pointed out the whole area where I used to hunt and fish. And as we got closer to my hometown, started showing this stuff. And it was just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Then we stopped at my cousin's place in Blanchardville, Hughesy's, and that was our first stop. And that's when I found out that there were people on this trip that didn't even know who I was, but wanted to do it, and had never met me before. And of course, this time of year, they've already got their bikes packed because it's cold out there. And so when we got to Blanchardville, then the woman mentioned, she says, do you know that I've been filming you? I had no idea. And it broke me in tears to know that I was going to have this on film. And then we walked into the Hughesy's Pub and Grill there. Everybody enjoyed themselves. I toasted my hometown because I'll tell you what, growing up in a small town, I grew up with a lot of good values.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to carry those values to the big city. So, but I'll never forget my hometown. That's where I learned my values. Then we took a drive. We went up and saw my school, and then the woods up above where I used to hunt. That time, you could keep your fishing pole and your gun that you went hunting with in your locker to go to school. You could throw them in your locker so when you got done with school, you could go fishing. You could go right up in the woods to go squirrel hunting or rabbit hunting. 500 yards, I was up in the woods. Well, that's all changed.
Mm-hmm.
And then we made the trip to the school. I retracted there. And then we went to visit and saw my dad's old cheese store that he originally built, and of course it was added on over the years. But what was interesting, they saved the original brick entrance to the cheese store. We call it a cheese house, cheese store. And it was just surreal with the thick glasses and the thick mirror glass on it. It was unbelievable. And it was so unbelievable. In all these years that I've gone back, I'd never really gotten that close and paid attention. Here's the original door, everything. It was like, I don't think, well, the entrance was the same.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, I went up and I kissed the stone in my dad's cheese store. It was just like kissing the Blarney stone.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, there was a Quonset up next door, which is no longer there, the Quonset up, which I lived in by the store till about 4 years of age. And then I moved across the street. And this is where it really got unreal. I went across, I was pointing towards the house to everybody that was there and said, that's where I live. And I had till I was 13 for 9 years. That's the house I grew up. Well, I'm pointing to it, and there's two ladies that are standing up the street in the sidewalk there, leaning towards the school, talking, and seeing what's happening. So as I'm going across the street to look at the house, they're motioning to some of the friends that came out on my trip. They wanted to know what was going on and why I was pointing to the house. And they told him this was the house that he was raised in. And it was just unreal at that point. The woman came over. She said, this is my home. Would you like to take a walk through it? My God, the tears started coming down my eyes. In walking through the house, I left there in 1965. The only thing they have done differently in the house, they added a little extension to the kitchen, but that was it. And even the kitchen at that point was pretty much the same. But when I walked through the whole house, it remained the same all the way across. There were no changes. It's an older home. It was built in the early 1800s. Maybe it's on the Register of Deeds. I don't know. But nothing had changed. We walked through the house, upstairs, the rooms, the placement, everything. The closets, my mom's room, my brother's room, and the room where I slept with my brother Bill for a number of years growing up. And my brother, the older one, of course, had the big room. Mom and Dad had the smallest room of all. And the closets were all the same. And the bathroom. The only change in the bathroom was they added a shower. The door, storage room into the bathroom, prior to entering in there, I told the woman that owned the house, I said, this is where my mom used to hang, or used to hide the Christmas gifts. The woman said, that's where I hide mine now. I opened up the door, and sure enough, there's the rolls of Christmas paper, and the closet size is still the same. This whole thing was surreal. In this house, I moved out of in 1965, and it hasn't changed.
Mm-hmm.
It's unreal. And the trip back, they took a different route, and ironically enough, I hadn't planned on that route, but they took me on another route back, which was also surreal because it took me in an area that I fished and hunted with my dad even more so. So it was just a whole nother, like another trip. And so we did that, and of course I had my arms just free as a bird, free as an eagle.
Mm-hmm.
And then we stopped in Mount Vernon to my other cousin's place, Marcy, and came in there, and just that was the end of the trip. That was the last stop I wanted to make. And that particular spot that we made when my dad and I went trout fishing, and my brother Bill, we'd start at one end. We'd go into Mount Vernon, we'd have a stop there for lunch, and then we'd continue on into the streams through Mount Vernon. Or if we started the other end, then we'd come through going towards Blanchardville, we'd stop at the bar in Mount Vernon. So it was another surreal trip.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, again, the cancer, yeah, I'm going to keep hitting at it and keeping it away as long as I can. I got too many things to do, too many things to accomplish. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep plugging away.
Sounds like a really good plan.
Yes, it does. And I'll keep you posted.
There's two things you made mention to here. Well, just since we've been talking. One was the room in that house where you shared with Brother Bill. You had another experience with Brother Bill, similar to when you were a kid, just this week. You want to talk?
Just this past week, it was kind of funny. I have a brother, Bill, who's just a super guy, and he's bipolar. And he had him staying this weekend with me. And it was cold out in the other room. Well, I happened to kind of wake up, and I could see my brother sitting there in the chair, and he said, it's cold. The other room. And he's shaking and everything. And he said, I know. Well, the next thing I know, he's plopping into my bed. Well, hell, we hadn't slept together since I was, I don't know, can't remember. Well, put it this way, hadn't slept with my brother in the same bed for over 50 years, put it that way. So it was interesting. Here are two brothers 50 years later that are sleeping in the same bed. Yep. Because that's what it's all about, this family. Mm-hmm. Bottom line, no matter how you slice it, family's the most important thing you got. Mm-hmm. And I like driving home that point.
And the one other thing I wanted to run by you real quick and just get you to talk just a little bit about while we're doing this is you'd mentioned just briefly you were having a little bit of pain in your head.
Yeah, I think what's going on here is some of the treatment, the chemo, but there's also the steroid aspect taking it. But I'm feeling, got a little pressure up here, and feeling a little pressure, like a pressure headache. Mm-hmm. Just been little throbs back and forth. at this point not constant.
Yeah. Is that something that's just kind of started up today?
Yeah, just started today. And today I started my second day of treatment, too. I took the pills and that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot going on there. And I had a lot happening as well today. So we'll see what develops, see what happens, and just take her from there.
Is there anything else that's happened just today or yesterday that you want to throw out at the camera while we're at it? Anything else going on that we haven't talked about?
And this was kind of funny. I want to share this. And then this is really neat. I was on the phone yesterday with my brother. And I could tell he was in one of his moods. He was good mood, bad mood. He was shifting back and forth. And I thought, we got talking. I asked him what he was doing. And he said, well, I'm listening to some Christmas music. And I said to him, by gosh, I haven't been watching TV lately. I think in a few minutes when I sit down, what station are you watching? Well, I'm watching listening to WOLX. I said, okay, it's got Christmas music. I said, Bill, you know what? A few minutes, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to turn on the radio station and listen to Christmas music. And I'll turn on the same station. And I said, Bill, you know what? I'm going to sit down and have one here, and you go ahead and have one, and we'll toast each other. While you're listening to the music, we'll toast each other because we're listening to the same station and listening to Christmas music. So I'm listening. About a half hour later, I was able to sit down. But all of a sudden, the song comes up. And the disc jockey says, I've never heard of another song that's out there that mentions beer, grocery store, and Christmas all in one. And he says, I'm going to play the song, and it's by Dan Fogelberg. And it was like, oh my God. So I listened to Dan Fogelberg sing this song. As soon as it was over, I immediately picked up the phone. I said, Bill? Yeah? I said, did you hear the song that just played by Dan Fogelberg? Yeah, I said, about a beer and grocery store and Christmas. And I said, now, I'm going to tell you a story about Dan Fogelberg and his mother and dad that I've been buried in the back of my mind and archived for years, that I've never even talked about it. He said, really? And I told him, yep. He said, Bill, I ran a restaurant in Louisville, Colorado called the Blue Parrot 2. There's the Blue Parrot and Blue Parrot 2. They were so well known across the state that even the governor would occasionally come there and eat. And lines getting spaghetti on a Friday, Saturday night would go, and to get into the place would go a block and a half, 2 blocks long. And this was a small place, and I overseen the place. And the Fogelbergs used to come in there all the time, so I made sure they got preferential treatment instead of when they got there, they didn't wait in line down a block and a half. They came right in the front door, and they got their seat at the bar. And when the table was ready, they got their table. And Mr. and Mrs. Fogelberg. And I can't remember their names offhand. But after a couple of weeks went by, I asked him, I said, I'm just having my coffee break. Would you mind if I join you and sat down at your table? If I'm interfering, you just let me know. They said no. Well, then got talking to them about Dan. And of course I listened to his music and everything else. And so it became a regular ritual that when they came in for their spaghetti, Robert would sit and take his break. Well, they were just happy and thrilled as could be. And I made sure that if I ever bothered them, let me know. And they had a good time. We had a good time. So I got to know his mom and dad extremely well, which was really neat. And I just found out by looking up the internet that he passed away here recently, or a number of years ago, of pancreatic cancer. At a very young age. He was 50-some years old. I'm not sure if his mom and dad are alive. I'm kind of hoping they are, but they'll be up there in years. I kind of suspect that they passed away. That was in '85. So it's hard to say. We're talking 30 years later. He was in his 50s. I don't think so. But just a nice little story. And it made Bill's night. And then looking at the obituary I noticed one of the songs that he has done was leader of the band. And then it went on to explain the leader of the band was a tribute to his dad, who was a leader of a band. And now I've got to find an album that's come out, or that he put out, High Mountain Snow or something like that, which was all bluegrass. So I've got to find that.
Nice.
Yeah, but there's a real nice story, and it's a happy ending, and it put a smile on my brother. Put a smile on both of us.
And what's your closing statement we talked about there a few minutes ago?
Well,
and now you have...
And now you have the rest of the story.
Perfect.
You got me there, like.
Awesome.
I got this hat that I bought from Sacred Feather here in Madison on one of my trips here. And it just fit me perfect. It's a nice hat, country style, had the feather, had everything on it, and went up to a little town up in Colorado, up in the mountains, and we're at this little place, it was big, this tavern, a pub, whatever you want to call it, and it was a place where a lot of the musicians, well-known musicians, would stop in and play. So you never knew what was going on up there, and they had a band that night. It was real good, and I was just having a great time. Young, I think I was 28, 7, 8, 9 at the time, and feeling my wild oats and what have you, and met this girl, and she loved my hat. I said, really? And I liked her hat. She had a nice one. I never knew what become of it. But I said, here, take mine. So I gave her my hat. I had a few and she'd had a few. And so I gave her my hat. Woke up the next morning and wondered what the hell I did with it. Then I remembered. So I didn't bother ordering another one.
Was that, were you planning on swapping hats back at the end of the night and just forgot, or?
No, I had plain out given it to her.
Oh, nice.
I fell in love with her. That's what I did. I fell in love for a night and went home alone. To put it mildly. That's what I did. I mean, hey, we've all done things like that.
Yeah.
I think. Maybe not. But that hat wasn't cheap.
I bet. Very nice. Well, now you got that new hat. It's kind of become your personality, you know? Or
then there's the other story up in Leadville, Colorado. Leadville's way up there in the mountains. And I forget, I was with a couple, and for some reason, we ended up in Leadville. It's and that's the highest, I believe the highest peak area in Colorado. I forget, whatever. It's got one hell of a winding road coming down, I can tell you that. But it's an old mining community. And we go to this bar, and there's a check-in. Now, you got to remember, I'm from Wisconsin. Now, this is Colorado. We're way up in the mountains. I walk into this bar, and they say, do you have any weapons to check in? I said, so what? Knives or guns or what have you? I don't see you having a holster, so we know you don't have any guns, but we have to check in all the weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Sure as hell, here's all kinds of weapons, belts, like the cowboys wore with their guns. They're checking in their guns because they can't have them in the bar. I'm going, oh my God. And because it was legal, and it still is as far as I know to this day. They may have changed it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was legal to carry your gun.